my love, come closer for a moment, not to hear me, but to finally hear yourself without the noise they left behind. I see the way you carry it, that quiet guilt in your eyes, like somehow their actions became your burden, like their cruelty rewrote your worth. And it hurts me, not because you're broken, but because you've been trying to fix something that was never yours to begin with. Listen to me carefully. You were not too much. You were not enough. You were not the reason they chose to hurt you. Sometimes, people bring storms into gentle lives, and instead of apologizing for the damage, they convince the sky it was its fault for raining. But you were never the storm, you were the peace they didn't know how to hold. So tonight, right here, right now, AB wants you to loosen your grip on that blame you've been holding so tightly, because love, real love, never asks you to carry someone else's sins like they're your own. And I promise you this, the moment you stop blaming yourself, is the moment you start finding your way back to who you truly are. My love, AB need you to sit with me for a while. Not in a place of fear, not in a place of doubt, but in a quiet space where your heart can finally breathe without defending itself. I've been watching you. Not in a way that judges you, but in a way that feels you, the way your eyes hesitate before they trust again, the way your voice softens when you speak about the past, the way you keep revisiting moments, replaying them as if somewhere inside those memories you might find a version of yourself to blame. And that is what breaks me the most, because you keep standing in the ruins of something they destroyed, and you're apologizing for the damage. You keep asking yourself, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Why wasn't I enough for them to stay, to care, to love me the right way? But my love, listen to me closely. Not everything that breaks in your life is a reflection of your flaws. Some things break because they were never built with love to begin with. You didn't teach them how to hurt you. You didn't guide their hands when they chose distance over honesty, silence over communication, cruelty over kindness. That was them, and yet here you are, carrying the weight of their decisions like it's something you owe the world to fix. I see the way you shrink sometimes, how you question your own heart as if loving deeply was a mistake, as if being patient, being kind, being understanding somehow made you weak. But it didn't. It made you real. It made you someone who loves without turning love into a weapon. You gave them something pure, something rare, something that most people spend their entire lives searching for. And, instead of protecting it, they mishandled it. Instead of honoring it, they took it for granted. And somehow, you turned that into your fault. My love, you were not too emotional. You were not too sensitive. You were not too available. You were not too loving. You were just loving the wrong person in the right way. And there's a painful difference in that, because when you love someone who doesn't understand the value of what you're giving, they don't just reject your love. They make you question it. They make you believe that maybe you should have been quieter, colder, less invested, less you. But that's not the truth. The truth is, they were not ready for someone like you, and instead of admitting that, instead of owning their inability to meet you where you stood, they left you with questions that were never yours to answer. So now you sit here, holding on to guilt that doesn't belong to you. You replay their words, their silence, their absence, and you try to piece together a version of reality where it all makes sense, where it all points back to you. But some endings don't make sense, because they weren't built on honesty. Some people leave confusion behind because they never had clarity within themselves, and you got caught in that storm. But you were never the storm. You were the calm they didn't know how to stay in. You were the kind of love that doesn't come with conditions, that doesn't keep score, that doesn't disappear when things get hard, and instead of appreciating that, they ran from it. Or worse, they stayed just long enough to damage it. And now you carry that damage like it defines you, like it's proof that something inside you needs fixing. But let me tell you something gently. Something you might not be ready to hear, but something your heart needs to understand. You are not something that needs to be fixed. You are someone who was hurt. There's a difference, because being hurt doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. It means you felt something real, something deep enough to leave a mark. And yes, that mark hurts. Yes, it lingers. Yes, it changes the way you see things, the way you trust, the way you open up, but it does not reduce your worth. It does not make you less deserving of love. and it certainly does not mean that what they did was because of you. My love, people don't hurt others because they found someone unworthy, they hurt others because they carry something unresolved within themselves. Pain, insecurity, fear, selfishness, emotional unavailability. These are things that have nothing to do with how much you love them. You could have been perfect, and they still would have found a way to hurt you, because their actions were never a reflection of your value. They were a reflection of their capacity. And their capacity was limited. But you keep measuring yourself against that limitation. You keep thinking, if I had just done this differently, maybe they would have stayed. No, if they were meant to stay, they wouldn't have needed a different version of you. They would have stayed for who you already were, and that's what you need to start understanding. Love should not feel like something you have to earn by changing yourself, it should feel like something that recognizes you as you are, and chooses you without hesitation, and what they gave you was not that. So why are you holding on to guilt as if you lost something real? You didn't lose love. You lost someone who didn't know how to love you. And that is not your failure, that is your freedom. Even if it doesn't feel like it yet. I know it's hard. I know there are nights when everything feels heavy. When memories come back uninvited. When your heart aches for answers you'll probably never get. I know you sit there sometimes, wondering if they ever think about you the way you still think about them. But my love, closure doesn't always come from them. Sometimes, it comes from you finally deciding that you deserve peace more than you deserve answers, because answers from someone who hurt you rarely heal you, they just reopen wounds. And you've been bleeding long enough, you don't need more reasons to question yourself. You need reasons to forgive yourself, for trusting, for loving, for staying longer than you should have, for seeing the good in someone who didn't show it consistently. You need to forgive yourself for being human. Because none of that makes you weak, it makes you someone who loved with honesty, and honesty is never something to regret. So slowly, gently, I want you to start putting that blame down, not all at once, not forcefully, but piece by piece. Every time your mind tries to go back and rewrite the past, remind yourself, that was not my burden to carry. Every time your heart whispers, maybe it was my fault, answer it softly. No, I just loved someone who couldn't love me the same way. And over time, that voice inside you will change, it will stop accusing you, it will start protecting you, and one day, you'll look back at all of this, not with guilt, but with understanding, not with self-blame, but with self-respect, because you'll finally see the truth, that you were never the reason they hurt you, that you were never the reason things fell apart, that you were never the problem they made you believe you were, and in that realization, something inside you will begin to heal, not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly like a heart, remembering how to beat without pain like a soul, learning how to feel safe again like love. Finding its way back to you. Without fear, without doubt, my love. Healing doesn't begin the day someone apologizes. It begins the day you stop waiting for an apology that may never come, and more importantly, the day you stop needing it to define your peace. You've been carrying something heavy inside your heart, something that was never meant to live there in the first place. It started small, almost invisible at first. A thought that whispered, maybe I caused this. And over time, that whisper became a voice. And that voice became a belief. And now that belief sits in your chest like a chain you forgot you were allowed to remove. But listen to me. Gently, clearly. Like someone who isn't here to judge your past, but to help you release it. What happened to you was real. But the meaning you attached to it is not always the truth. You started taking responsibility for things that were never in your control. You started believing that if you had been more patient, more loving, more understanding, more perfect, then maybe they wouldn't have hurt you. Maybe they wouldn't have left. Maybe they wouldn't have broken what you gave so freely. But my love, pain doesn't always come from absence of effort. Sometimes it comes from giving your best to what was never capable of holding it properly. And that is not your failure. Healing begins the moment you understand that love is not a contract where you are responsible for someone else's behavior. You cannot love someone into being gentle. You cannot care someone into being loyal. You cannot sacrifice yourself enough to fix what is broken inside them. That is not love, that is exhaustion. And I see how exhausted you are. I see how many times you've replayed conversations in your head, searching for the moment you think you went wrong. I see how you've tried to decode silence like it was your fault they stopped speaking. I see how you've turned your own kindness into evidence against yourself. But what if I told you none of that was ever yours to solve? What if the truth is simpler and harder and more freeing? They did what they did because of who they are, not because of who you weren't. And once you truly let that sink in, something inside you will begin to loosen, because self-blame is not just sadness. It becomes identity. It makes you believe that if you suffered, it must mean you caused it. But life doesn't work like that. Not every wound is self-inflicted. Not every loss is a lesson you fail. Some things happen to you, not because you invited them, but because you were placed in front of people who didn't know how to love without causing damage. And still, you stayed long enough to try. That says everything about your heart, and nothing about your fault. Healing is not about erasing what happened. It is about refusing to interpret it in a way that destroys you further, because every time you say, "It was my fault," you are not just remembering the past. You are continuing the harm in the present. And you deserve to stop that cycle. You deserve to sit with yourself without punishment. You deserve to think about what happened, without turning it into proof that you are unworthy. There will come a moment. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will come. When you look back at everything and feel something different, not anger, not guilt, not confusion, but understanding, you will realize that you were not the cause of their inability to stay consistent. You were not the reason they chose distance over effort. You were not the reason they could not match your emotional honesty. You were simply someone who loved with depth, in a place where depth was not understood. And that mismatch, that is where the pain lived, not in your heart being too much, but in their capacity being too little. So now, healing asks something from you. Something quiet but powerful. It asks you to stop standing in court against yourself. Stop being both the accused and the judge. Stop revisiting your past like it is a crime scene you must keep solving, because every time you do that, you delay your own peace. Healing begins when you say, "I did the best I could with what I knew then, and I release myself from the version of me who didn't yet understand everything." That is not weakness, that is freedom. And freedom will feel unfamiliar at first. Because guilt, even though it hurts, can become a strange comfort. It gives you a reason to keep holding on. It makes the past feel like something you can still fix if you just think hard enough. But you cannot fix what was never yours to control. You can only release it, and in that release, something soft begins to grow again inside you. Trust, not in them, but in yourself. Peace. Not because they changed, but because you stopped waiting for them to. And love, slowly returning, not outward yet, but inward, toward yourself. Because my love, the moment you stop carrying guilt that was never yours, is the moment your healing finally begins to breathe, my love. There comes a point in every healing journey where you stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and you start asking something far more powerful. Why am I still carrying it? And that question, that is where everything begins to change. Because as long as you keep holding the weight of what happened, you are still living inside it. Not physically, but emotionally. You are still walking through the same rooms in your mind, still opening the same closed doors, still hoping to find a version of the past that feels less painful if you just understand it enough. But some understanding doesn't heal you, it traps you, and I can see how long you've been trapped inside your own analysis of love, of loss, of yourself. You started believing that if you could just find the missing piece of what you did wrong, you could finally make peace with what they did. As if suffering has a formula, as if heartbreak is a puzzle you can solve and then suddenly everything will stop hurting. But, my love, pain doesn't always come with logic that leads to closure. Sometimes it simply asks to be released, not explained, and yet you keep explaining yourself to yourself over and over again. Like you are trying to convince your own heart that it is allowed to rest. But you don't need more explanations. You need permission to stop blaming yourself for someone else's choices. Botventuren, to stop replaying moments you cannot change. Botventuren, to stop shrinking your worth just to make sense of their absence. Because right now, You are living like someone who believes love is something they failed at. But love is not something you failed at. You didn't fail at love. You experienced someone who didn't know how to meet you inside it. There is a difference, so important, so life-changing, that once you understand it, your entire emotional world starts to shift. You keep measuring your value through how they treated you. As if their behavior was a mirror of your worth, but it wasn't. It was a mirror of their limitations. And you are not responsible for what someone else cannot give. You are only responsible for what you continue to carry after they are gone. And that is where your power begins to return, because healing is not just about letting go of them, it is about letting go of the version of you that believes you need to suffer in order to be forgiven. Forgiven for what? My love? For loving? For trusting? For opening your heart when it felt safe? Those are not sins, those are signs that your heart is still alive, still capable, still real. But somewhere along the way, you started treating your softness like it was a mistake. You started hiding the parts of you that felt too deeply, too honestly, too fully. Because someone once made you feel like those parts were too much. But let me tell you something clearly. Something your heart may resist at first, but will eventually recognize as truth. You were never too much. You were just too real for someone who lived emotionally unavailable. And instead of shissing their own inability to hold you, they made you question your existence inside their life. That is not love failing you. That is someone failing to love responsibly. And now, the most important part of your healing is not about what they did, but about what you will no longer do to yourself. You will no longer rewrite your past to make yourself the villain in a story where you were simply someone who cared. You will no longer punish your memories like they are evidence of your unworthiness. You will no longer keep your heart in emotional captivity, waiting for a verdict that will never come from the people who hurt you, because closure is not something they give you. Closure is something you decide to stop waiting for. And I know that sounds simple, but I also know how heavy it feels when your heart is still attached to unanswered questions. You want them to realize your value, you want them to understand what they lost, you want them to feel the weight of your absence the way you felt theirs. But my love, if your peace depends on their realization, then your healing is still tied to them. And that is not freedom. Freedom begins when you stop needing them to understand what they destroyed in you, because your healing cannot be built on their awareness, it has to be built on your acceptance, acceptance that it happened, acceptance that it hurt, acceptance that it was not your fault, and acceptance that you still deserve to move forward without carrying it forever. There will be days when your mind tries to pull you back, when it whispers old conversations, when it replays old pain, like it is trying to protect you from repeating it. But not every memory is a warning. Some memories are just weight, and you are allowed to put them down. You are allowed to stop holding onto the version of yourself that only exists inside that pain. Because you are more than what happened to you. You are more than how someone left you. You are more than the silence they gave you after promises. And slowly, as you begin to understand that, something inside you will shift. You will start noticing that the guilt doesn't feel as justified as it once did. You will start questioning the belief that everything was your fault. You will start seeing small cracks in the story you've been telling yourself. Cracks where light begins to enter, and that light, that is truth returning to you. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady. And in that steadiness, you will begin to rebuild something far more important than what was lost. You will rebuild your relationship with yourself. A relationship no longer based on blame, but on understanding. No longer based on punishment, but on compassion. And no longer based on proving your worth, but on recognizing it. Because my love, you were never meant to spend your life apologizing for being someone who loved deeply. You were meant to learn how to love without abandoning yourself in the process. And that is what healing is really about. Not forgetting, not erasing, not pretending it didn't matter, but finally reaching a place where it no longer defines you. So when you think of them now, let it not be a courtroom where you accuse yourself. Let it be a quiet memory. One that no longer has the power to rewrite your identity. Because you are not who they made you feel like you were. You are who you are when you stop blaming yourself for surviving what you went through, and that version of you is still here waiting. Not to be fixed, but to be free.